Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions, and I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese in France, Mickey? What? Boy, ale with cheese, Mickey. Yeah, I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success?
Let's do it.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Speak. I think I'm your host, Dave.
I'm JD, and I'm alone.
All right, boys and girls. So here's what's going on. It's just JD and I tonight. Number one, John is under the weather still. He's having some back issues, and he's going to have a get checked out on this week, see what's going on. So long story short, he's going to take some time off from the podcast. We wish him well. I'm sure he'll be back before we know it and annoying us all and drinking along.
John's miserable, but not in the way he's like normally miserable.
Yes.
Like he's like hurting miserable, not like hurting inside miserable.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, he's probably still hurting on the inside, but now he's turning the outside to match.
His outside is matching his inside, I think.
Right, so which is pure misery for anyone. So we get why John is taking a break. Seriously, though, hope John's feeling better. His back's really messed up right now, and that's no fun.
And then we had a couple guests lined up for tonight to do an interview, and they had to cancel last minute, like really last minute.
The literal last minute.
For health issues. And it's like, well, it's too late to get a sub. It's too late to put together topics. So guess what? JD and I are winging it tonight.
We've been doing this for 5 years together. I think we can figure this out.
This takes me, I wanted to start off with saying this takes me back to the very first episode when it was me, John, and Ben, and we all worked together at the Point Roll, and we just went into a conference room. I literally put my phone down on the middle of the table and hit record.
Oh, wow.
And we said, we're going to talk about Man of Steel. And that's all we did. We just talked Man of Steel for like an hour and put that up. And that was the first episode. So, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
The first podcast I ever did on my own, I interviewed my buddy Rich Duick, and I had the microphone I put my phone up to the microphone when he would talk because I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. Technology. It's come a long way. I'll say that.
I'll say it.
So, oh boy. So,
sorry.
How's your week?
Great. I had 2 sneezes there, which created some pregnant pauses.
Yes.
Not bad, man. I took my kid to a place. We have a place that, because we live in the country, but we got Rockford. It's about a 25-minute drive from us, and the home of Cheap Trick for some rock and roll fans. It's a dump. Rockford sucks, but there are parts of it that are okay. And he knew about this place called Nickel World, and it's an arcade, and you pay, it's $2.50 to get in per person. And then everything runs off nickels.
Oh, wow.
Like it's not a nickel. It's like usually 2 nickels for a video game or 3 nickels for a video game. I paid 4 nickels to play air hockey with my kid, and it was 10 nickels for him to play Dance Dance Revolution and figure out that he hated it. So it was awesome. We had a great time. I was playing Mortal Kombat and Tekken like it was 1995 all over again. I had a blast with my kid this afternoon. It was awesome. Cool. And then we were watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids before I came up to do the podcast.
The original?
The original. Yeah. We sit down with him and we try to watch like older movies to try to introduce him to like quality entertainment from before he was born and stuff that we liked, which is probably perversing him because he loves Scooby-Doo and he loves all this stuff from, the 80s and 90s, and but it was good. He was enjoying it before I had to leave.
I think every parent does that.
I think so too.
I remember sitting down and like my parents showing us, what was it? The original Cheaper by the Dozen, which was a Disney movie. And it's such a different movie than the Steve Martin one.
They're remaking it again, or a
Yes.
remake if it came out again. I forget what it is, but yeah,
They're remaking it again. Yeah.
why not keep remaking that thing? When my mom did the same thing, because she was a big film buff too, and I remember when I was a little kid, probably not much older than Andy. They had, we go to the video store. Remember that was a thing, kids, the video store, and I would usually look at the cartoon movies and stuff like that, and then like the horror movie section was off to the corner, and it felt dangerous, right? Like that's where all the scary movies are. And I would like every time I went there, I'd inch my way over to the horror movie section and I would just look at the boxes. And my brain would like fill in the gaps and what was going on in all these scary movies. So I mean, like I had no idea what things were, but I was obsessed with like the cover of like Return of the Living Dead.
Okay.
And I've never seen Return of the Living Dead, to be quite honest with you, because my brain filled in the gaps of what it is. So I felt like I don't need to. And then I remember I got in trouble in vacation Bible school because we had like free art time. And I drew a poster for Return of the Living Dead Part 3, which before it actually came out. And it was the zombies versus Optimus Prime. And they brought my parents in to have a conversation with them about how that was not appropriate for Bible school. And my dad was this aging hippie. So he was like, my kid can draw whatever he wants. Good. Down with religion. We don't believe in your bullshit. Anyway, my mom's trying to shut him up. So yeah. But my mom, long story short, my mom's like, if you want to start watching these movies, we will watch them together, but you're going to start in the beginning. So she rented Dracula, the Bela Lugosi version.
Oh, wow.
And we watched Dracula and Frankenstein, and that's what got me into these movie monsters. I remember we had these books in my elementary school about movie monsters, and then I was reading about Godzilla and King Kong. And then at the same time, I just like about a year later, I discovered Grandpa Al had Super Scary Saturdays on TBS in the morning just after wrestling. So I'd watch wrestling, and then I'd watch some monster movie, and that was pretty much it. My life fell down this path because I was too scared to walk into the scary movie section of the video store.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to think. Is Return of the Living Dead the one where it's like a nuclear accident?
Yeah, I think so. I've only seen the parts, but that's the one where they braids and then like that's all I know about.
Right, because they capture one and they're like, "Why do you want brains?" Because it stops the pain.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Pain? The pain of being dead.
Yeah. Again, I've never actually seen it. But again, in my mind, it was Autobots versus zombies. And quite frankly, nothing's ever going to surpass that. So why try? Like, what's going to beat that? So just let it live in my head the way I think it is. And
someone needs to make that movie.
I think there's lawsuits. I think there was like legal precedents that would prevent anyone from making that movie, but it would be awesome. It would be awesome. IDW, if you're listening, call me. But yeah, I remember I have the vivid memory of going through this whole thing, and then and that got me rolling down the ball, because now I'm watching all kind. By that point, I'm in the 5th grade watching The Omen and being like, this rules, man.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And quite frankly, The Omen does rule. It's a great movie. That's Damien. The original Omen is a fantastic horror movie. Probably too slow for people today who are getting into horror movies, because movies in the 70s just move slower. They aren't like what they are now,
What was the last one they made where he's like an adult and he's running?
The Final Conflict. Not to be confused with Europe's The Final Countdown. But that's when Sam Neill plays Damien.
Sam Neill,
and he's running for president, and he impregnates women with a fellow Antichrist, but they impregnated her going in the wrong way. I was in the movie. That really did happen. And then they because they made a sequel to that one that came out on Fox in the early 90s. Which, oh my god! Because that was like his daughter, and then his daughter, when she's like 10, they found out she's carrying her twin brother in her womb, and it's a god awful piece of shit, man. It's so bad. But like, if you dig the mythos of The Omen, if you're a completist nutcase like me, you've seen them.
Yeah, I've only seen, I think, the first one and last one.
The first two are good. Damien Omen 2 is actually a pretty good movie. It's not as good as The Omen, but it's not bad. It's like the kid figures out he's the son of the devil, and he's really bothered by it at first, and then by the end he's like, fuck it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'll just roll with this. But it's a cool movie. It's really cool. The one you're thinking of, The Final Conflict with Sam Neill, is dog shit. It's such a bad movie. It's not. It's when you pitch it, you're like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, that's terrible, which is a shame.
There was I had a group of friends, and like we would always once a week get together and rent a movie, and we would all take turns picking the movie. And my one friend would always pick horror movies, and 9 times out of 10 pick them based on the box. So we saw the Omen, and then when the Final Countdown came out, or what's that? Final Conflict came out, and we knew who Sam Neill was. It was like, oh yeah, we got to watch this. Oh my god, this is horrible.
It's bad. I had a friend like that too, because in college, especially, we would go out of our way to go to Blockbuster and rent, again, age. Then we would rent like intentionally bad horror movies. And that was fun at that point. But then we would get some classics too. Like that's how I watched Texas Chainsaw for the first time, the original Texas Chainsaw.
I think the most memorable one that he picked was Lair of the White Worm.
Oh, that's a Bram Stoker story.
Yes, but the movie's horrible.
I've heard that. I know the book is supposed to be decent, I guess. I mean, like you never quite when you strike Dracula like your first time out, like where do you go from there? You know?
Yeah.
Like you hit one of the literary classics. Like, but I've heard Lair of the White Worm is not a bad book. I've never read it. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's got a great title.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and also I think it's one of those movies too where it was made in the 80s, so the special effects are something to be desired.
I don't know, man. Like I was having this conversation with Michelle the other day because we were watching Pirates of the Caribbean a couple weeks ago with Andy, and the scene where the skeleton pirates are climbing on stuff, I'm like, man, that looks very video gamey. Oh, and I was watching Rogue One the other day, and we got to the end where my brother's trying to call, doesn't know I'm podcasting. We got to the end where you see Grand Moff Tarkin and Princess Leia. And I'm like, holy crap, it's only 7 years old, but this is aged terribly. Like they look like video game characters. It's bad. Like I'll straight up say it's really bad in retrospect. But then again, like you look at some of the stuff from the 80s, like the practical special effects movies, and I think some of those have aged better in some aspects than the early CGI heavy films. Like I can watch Gremlins and still be like, man, this holds up. You know, most of Ghostbusters holds up pretty good. You know?
In the first Spider-Man movie, there's a scene where he's fighting guys and he does like a backflip and knocks them out, and it's all CG Spider-Man in that scene, and like that has not aged well at all.
I have not watched the original Spider-Man in a long time.
Yeah,
so I need to check that out. Because I always defend it, so part of me wonders if it's as good as I think it is. You know, so I need to give it another view because it's 20 years old at this point. But again, I like a lot of stuff from the 80s that I think holds up pretty well in most cases. So I would like to check that out because I have noticed that a lot of the movies with early computer special effects, and not like talking like Last Starfighter or anything like that, but I mean like, you know, the early CG laden films, I don't think they age very well. I haven't watched Transformers, which I guess came out 15 years ago today. I haven't watched that in forever. I don't know how that looks. I didn't love it at the time.
I don't know. That's going to be a tough one, I think.
I mean, sitting through it might be a chore, but yeah, I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
So how was your week?
Good. I actually went on a mini vacation, went down the shore.
The Jersey Shore, or does Pennsylvania have a shore that I'm unaware of?
The Jersey Shore.
Oh.
With my girlfriend. Her school was shut down for a week. They do maintenance once a year, so after school ends, a couple weeks after school ends, they do it every year where like anything that needs to be fixed, they strip the floors and wax them, and you know, if there's a broken window, it gets replaced. Like all that stuff is done in this week. So you can go in if you want, but like no one's there. Mostly everyone goes on vacation that week, you know, so that there's no staff getting in the way of the guys working. So she's like, oh, why don't we go? So I took Friday off. We left Thursday. She picked me up Thursday after work, and we went down. And we were just going to stay the one night, but it was like it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours to get to the shore from my house. And so it was just like, yeah, we'll stay an extra night. You know, we came home yesterday. But yeah, no, we had a good time. We went, you know, I don't know, like, you're from Chicago, so you probably don't go to the shore a lot. You don't have boardwalks near you.
What's a shore? Yeah. Well, actually, we have the lake shore, so it is common. You know, every once in a while, you got to go to the lake shore in Michigan, or Lake Michigan. We have the lake shore, and you go walk along that because we have beaches, but they're like not really beaches. I mean, there's some cool stuff though. You always get good pictures. We have the planetarium and the building and stuff like that lines. So there's stuff, but I
Yeah.
imagine it's not like like what you guys have.
Yeah, like so. I mean, anyone who's been to shore points along at least the Jersey Shore, there's boardwalks everywhere, and they build up, amusements and games and food places all along the boardwalk, and you walk the boardwalk, and then the other thing is like tradition is you get up early and you go bike riding because nothing opens up on the boardwalk till like 10 o'clock. So you bike ride in the morning on the boardwalk, and go have breakfast, and then go hang out and do stuff. And there's a arcade. They call it a casino, arcade, whatever, that we go to. It's one of those where like you like Dave and Buster's, Chuck E. Cheese. You play, you earn points, and then you get prizes. And so we were doing that, and like it's funny because she like never went to. They always went to Seaside Heights, which is more not geared towards families and kids, or not geared towards kids, and where Wildwood is more for like teenage kids. Like it's more of a happening spot.
I got
more or less. So she never went there. So like, and so they don't have a lot of arcades like that. So they didn't really go that often when she would take her kids. So, but she got into it. She was playing the games and earning the points. And then I ended up getting a set. It's all the Avengers from the first movie mini mates came in a set.
That's cool.
So yeah. And then she didn't want anything. So I still got a bunch of points left, but we're going to go back down. She said probably later this month. Yeah, this month, July. And then, went to dinner at some of my favorite places. We had pizza, Sam's, for those who know the Jersey Shore, know Wildwood. Sam's is the best. It's better than Max. No complaints. No, I know my friend Doug listens every once in a while. Yes, Doug, Sam's is better than Max because he likes Max.
I will take your word for it.
And then the other thing was when we got up Saturday, we went to the convention center because they were having a comic book and collectible show.
Okay.
Yeah, there was an old filly there who was signing autographs, but that was it. I mean, and then there's a bunch of people selling stuff. It's interesting to see some of the stuff people are selling and the prices that they sell, especially sports collectibles, because that's not something I normally look at. And when you see people signing a baseball bat that's just signed by someone for $300, I'm like, really?
I don't understand any collectible. I'm not a collector, right? Like I read, right? That's what I'm a comic reader. I've never been a collector. Even the stuff like my wife's got the Star Wars stuff. She just got that for me. Like I've never been that kind of guy. So I see like what people want for things, or like whenever I go to a show and I see what people are selling, like toys or like even books for, I'm just like, it boggles my mind. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess I get the comic books a little bit, but still, like, I'm the guy, and this is exactly what I did there. There's like someone that had the dollar bin. They're actually what they did was everything in the book, everything in the box was $1, but everything was bagged, and there were 2 books per bag, so they were 50 cents. Unfortunately, you might see one book you want, and it's bagged with something else. You're like, eh.
Yeah,
but I bought 3, so I got $6. 6 books for $3. Like, why not? And then my girlfriend bought me a pair of Iron Man socks. So yeah, no, but we had a really good time. I'm exhausted today.
You sound exhausted, quite frankly.
My I don't have a Fitbit, but my app on my phone, like I walked like 7 miles. We walked like 6 miles the first day and like 3 miles the next day. And like I'm just like, ugh, I'm too old for all this. In fact, when we went bike riding in the morning later on that day, she's like, I haven't been on a bike since I was a teenager, and I've used muscles I didn't know I had anymore.
Like Karen, I forgot to mention it was my wedding anniversary on Friday.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thanks. 16 years.
16 wonderful years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Hopefully she buys it. No, it was cool. We usually were able to dump the kid off with the in-laws, but this year we decided we went to, because then we moved out here. So we went to one of our favorite restaurants back where we used to live, and we brought Andy with him. So Andy got to try some sushi stuff for the first time. None of the raw fish. It's not good for little kids, but he got to do like California rolls and that kind of stuff. So that was cool. And then yesterday we went up to the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra to watch them perform the soundtrack for How to Train Your Dragon while we watched the movie How to Train Your Dragon.
Wow.
It's awesome. If anyone ever has, because Michelle and I have done this a bunch. We've gone to the ones in Chicago. Like I think I've seen Ben-Hur and Star Wars and a couple other movies and a bunch of Looney Tunes they did once. They did all the Looney Tunes that are playing the music for the Looney Tunes. It was awesome. So if anyone ever has an opportunity to do that, I highly recommend it. It's a great way to watch a movie and get a little culture in you, because some people don't have the patience to sit through an orchestra. I might be guilty of that, but I've gotten used to it over the years. But it was my kid's first time, so he loves How to Train Your Dragon, absolutely loves it. So he was excited to watch it, and then it was cool watching him. He'd watch the instruments for a little bit, and then he would go back and watch the movie, and it's a neat little experience. So we got to have a nice little family weekend. So I got no work done whatsoever in the last 3 days.
Yeah, Karen took her oldest to the Star Wars one when he was like 5. Yeah, and she said he had a blast.
It's cool, man. Like I said, if you like movies, it's a cool way to watch a movie, and I think it gives you a different appreciation for music. As far as they relate to film, and it's not the way I would see a movie for the first time. But if it's a movie you like and you've seen a bunch, like I would absolutely go watch Big Trouble in Little China with John Carpenter performing the soundtrack on a keyboard. I would do that. I don't think there's a market for that, but I would do it if given the option.
Or Halloween.
Dude,
just
Halloween
sitting at a piano.
Yeah, that'd be badass, actually, now that I think about it.
John, if you're listening, let's make it happen.
We know you're not. Oh, no, John Carpenter. I think meant John O'Grady. There's actually a better chance of John Carpenter listening than John O'Grady listening.
There is a better chance of John Carpenter listening to this show than there is John O'Grady, because we interviewed his wife.
Oh, Deborah Hill,
a couple years ago at New York Comic Con. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that. I never go to the New York, so I always forget who you interview. I need to do that at some point. I haven't gone to New York Comic Con since 2014. I need to do that again at some point. I need to do it again.
Come with us.
I got to get there. That's the problem.
Plane schmane.
Well, then it's staying in New York. It's freaking expensive, man.
You would bunk with us.
It's still expensive.
Not when you split it among 3 people. Come on.
What's the cost of a hotel when I'm in New York City? Manhattan, on top of that. And do you realize how cheap I am? So that's question 2.
Okay. So when I went last year, I think it was $300 a night. The place that we stayed at.
That is expensive. That is incredibly expensive.
Saturday, yes. So it was $1,200 before taxes and everything. Yeah.
That is expensive.
Yes.
For multiple nights. That's still but it's still like $300 for one night when I can not go and not spend anything. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a cheap ass. So I don't like spending money. So, but yeah, that would be the last time I went to New York Comic Con. Again, I crashed at my friend's house who lived in Queens. So that's why I was doing that. The last time I went was when I was going full bore into being a comic book, into writing comics. And then I don't know if I ever told this story. So about Hawk Hollow. I'll tell you this. We got nothing else to do. So
wait. I mean, I remember Hawk Hollow when you started on the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you a little story. 24. So while I was doing my book Deluge, which was the first Kickstarter I did, it took 3 years from the time that we finished the Kickstarter to the time the book was printed. Right. Rich was getting other stuff, when he was working for me for very cheap. And then he did a Grant Morrison project, and then he did something with Corey Taylor of Slipknot fame. So yes, I'm less important than those guys, which is fine. I admit that. So I'm like, no problem. So it took 3 years to get the whole thing done. When it got done, I went to New York Comic Con with the hardcore, I am going to get stuff done. I am going to get in the door. Because I also had the first 4 pages for the Hawk Hollow comic book completed. Not completed. The letters weren't in, but the pencil, was inked and colored, and I had them there. So I was ready to go and get some attention, because at that point, Deluge had won a couple of indie awards, and I was feeling really good. It sold really well on Comixology. It was part of when Comixology Submit first broke. It was, I wouldn't say a hit, but it was a minor success. Sold tons of copies, but I made it so cheap I made it a dime. It was a 99-cent book. So anyways, I'm there and I'm talking to Andy Schmidt and these guys and people. I'm meeting editors, and I'm talking to people, and I have my finished book, which looks great and people like it, and I have this new thing that I'm talking to people about, and it's I got some, not a lot of, hey, we're going to publish this book, but a lot of, hey, this looks really good. Shoot me an email. So I was there and I was grinding, and I'm like, all right, this is good. This is great. So I went back home and I sat down and met with my artist. His name was Matt Jordan. And he was an interesting dude. He was a great artist. right? But he was an animator. That was his full-time job. And we both worked for this. We specialized in bar mitzvah videos, but we also did a lot of advertising and those kind of things too. So it was like a production house, and he was an animator there, and I was just a freelance camera guy. But we were friends. We would talk about comics. And he was super talented artist. And I had this book, Hawk Hollow, which I'm going to put out again in October. It is this haunted house. Like, imagine a bunch of kids in a haunted house, like a commercial haunted house, not like an actual haunted, like the people are running around scaring you. And what if the people running around trying to scare you were actually murderers? Right. Okay. And in this case, they're demonic redneck jinn. Was this crazy thing I came up with. So they're jinn, but they inhabit these people's bodies, and they're killing kids in this haunted house. Right. And the kids who are trying to survive don't know the difference, don't know who the killer is and who the people who just work for the haunted house is. So I was really proud of this haunted house story. And he did some amazing designs for this book, and it was really cool. And we were getting somewhere, right? And this is a guy, he was a childhood cancer survivor. He was paralyzed from the waist down. So he was in a wheelchair, but he's full of life, fun dude to hang out with, super creative. And he lived with his mom, his grandpa, and his grandma. And in the course of 18 months, he had lost all three of them. I think mom had cancer. I think grandma had a heart attack, and I forget how grandpa died, but it was like, it might've just been old age, and he just felt like it was time to go. And I remember this, we went to Red Robin in South Elgin, Illinois, and we're talking about this. I'm like, man, this went good. I said, I showed your stuff to so-and-so, and he liked it. He had some suggestions, but he liked it. And he was like, that's freaking awesome, man. And he goes, I finally feel like I can do something for me now. And I'm like, that's right. We're going to get this done. It's going to be awesome. 2 weeks later, I get a text message from a mutual friend of ours, 8 a.m, right when I woke up. My friend had died the night before.
Oh my God.
30 years old. He had a staph infection, and he never went to the hospital for it. He thought, I'll be fine. And the place we worked, they put in some grueling hours, especially in the animations. Like they worked hard. And it was about a 50-minute drive from his home to the office. And they think he wasn't feeling good, and went home and drove himself to his house and figured, I'll just take a nap in the car and I'll be fine. And they found him behind the wheel of his car in his driveway. He suffered a massive heart attack at 30 years old. And that messed me up real good, because for a lot of reasons. One, I just lost a friend. Two, it was a guy who was younger than me. He's 3 years younger than me. And I'm like, this was the first time that I had lost in my life of someone that was younger than me, and that was hard to process. And then we had this big project, and selfishly, I was like, what happens now? Yeah. What do I do? Like, because 2 weeks after that, I got an offer. And I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't do the project. My artist has died. And the company wasn't super reputable. We'll leave it at that. It has become one of I don't think they're around anymore, but it's a company that a lot of people say, don't work for this company. But for me at the time, would have been an in, you know? So was that audible? Because I don't want to get sued.
I don't think they're going to get sued, because I'm pretty sure they're not around anymore.
I don't think they're around anymore. At the time,
we had a big thing on our website about them when a lot of that crap was going down.
Yeah, I kept my mouth shut. So anyways, I sat and I talked to Andy Schmidt, who was my mentor and comics experience teacher. I said, what do I do? Because this guy's dad is a bad person. And we were worried. I was worried that maybe he would try to come at me, because we didn't have any formal contracts signed. We were two friends working together. And I was like, well, we don't have anything yet, so I'm not worried yet, and I didn't know what to do. And it really kind of set me into a depression spiral, like, I felt like I got the wood pulled, like, one, lost my friend. Right. Yeah. And that, the loss messed me up big time. And then I felt like, and then you get like the selfishness going, like, well, I got my opportunity pulled away from me. Now what do I do? I can't just hire somebody else. It didn't feel right. Two, like, I didn't want to change anything because I liked his designs. And three, it all just felt sour, like when I think about it, it would feel sour. So to exercise this, I wrote a book. I decided that I had no idea how to write a novel, but I decided I have all these ideas. I'll figure out what to do with it later. I hit the Infinity Gauntlet behind me, and there's the original. The cover sucks, but it had nothing to the cover. The cover was done separately, but this is my first book. It was Hawk Hollow, and I didn't know what to do from there. And I have not gone back to a show with the intention of trying to find work since then. So that was my last time going to New York Comic Con. So for a long time, when I thought about New York Comic Con, I would think about that experience. So, I mean, like, I haven't really wanted to go, but that's like 8 years now. So, I mean, and I'm in a much different place now. Like, quite honestly, I like to think that I was able to take that bit of loss and it really helped inspire me to move forward. That would be a lie, because it'd be a few years before. What would actually got me going is really when Andy was born. But after Matt died, it got bad. Like, Michelle was pregnant, and we had a lost pregnancy that was not good. Yeah. And then we were I fostered a teenager, and that ended very badly. And then I changed jobs a couple times, and it was just, it took me till Andy was born to really get my shit back together. It was about a good 18 months of legitimate depression. And I didn't know I was going through it in the moment. It was like, I remember one day I was sitting with Andy. He was probably 8 or 9 months old. And we were just snuggling, and I just felt great. Like, this is great. And then it all kind of came back to me, like, holy shit, I've been depressed. Someone just got shot at Dave's. Whoop. Oh, is that fireworks?
It's fireworks. Yes.
Ah, okay. So I live in the country, so at some point, some hillbilly is going to blow up a small part of Ogle County, Illinois, and then I'll be able to match that. But yeah, I don't know. We got time on the story, and this stuff came up, so I figured I might as well share that.
So it's funny, as you said that, I was like, oh, that's right. So on our website, I have not yet to take this down. On the front page, you scroll down, get a free copy of JD's newest novel, Hawk Hollow.
I was in 2018, actually, but I appreciate that. Coincidentally, because it'll be the 5-year anniversary, and I'm on this. Well, I got to run a Kickstarter every quarter thing in October for Halloween, because it's a Halloween story. I'm going to do a re-release of the book. I'm going to add I'm going to do some bonus content, and I'm going to have. I've never had a hardcover novel, which is why this is here, because this was my proof of getting my first hardcover novel print. So I'm going to release a hardcover version of it. So it's an experiment. We'll see what happens. My buddy Rich Clark, who did the Art and Deluge, and he did the Harvest Moon cover. Wow, it sounds like Vietnam by your house. So he's going to do that cover in October. So that'll be fun.
All right, so we'll update it then, because here's the thing. It takes you to I remember it was a link. If you joined your mailing list, you got a free digital copy of the book, and obviously that link doesn't work anymore.
Yes, I've taken that down. I didn't know you still had that on there, but that's
shows
cool.
you how often I update all that kind of stuff on the site.
It's okay. That's all right. Thanks for letting me tell that story, though, man. I haven't told it in a while, and it's good to get it off my chest sometimes.
Yes.
You know, I feel lighter just getting to talk about those kind of things.
Well, speaking of things we should talk about, should we talk about some tweets?
Let's do it, I suppose.
Oh my God. I'm going to blow up my neighborhood.
Sounds like Platoon.
Doesn't it?
Seeing Willem Dafoe in my mind just flailing before. That's a great movie. I got to watch that again now that I think about it.
All right. So we got quite a few things on this past week. The Joker sequel. We talked about the Joker sequel. Do people really want this? And why is my computer going crazy?
Oh,
sorry.
It's a giant pregnant pause. It's like, I was making a joke. I hope it wasn't a bad one.
No, my computer just went nuts. All right. So first we've got our good friend Timothy Jones. I would only want a sequel if it linked up with the Batman, but they already established their Joker, so it's best left as the one shot. If they did bring back Phoenix as the Batman's Joker, I think it would be a blockbuster. No joke. So, yes, he now adds that to make sure we know that when he's being serious.
Yes, we need, because there's the master of the dad joke, so you need to preface when you're being serious. He's the boy who cried dad joke. That's a good one. I'm proud of that. I don't think it works, because no, I have not seen Joker, but doesn't that take place in the 70s?
Or in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. Very much an 80s movie. Yeah.
Like very, very early 80s, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the story of the cars and the way people are dressed and the TVs, it's very like early 80s.
I don't
Hill Street Blues, it reminds me of.
Bum, bum, bum. Iconic theme song.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's a comic book movie. I mean, instead we're getting a musical.
Is it a comic book movie?
No, it's not.
I don't. This is going to be one of the wild. I'll say this. This is one of the gutsiest things I think anyone's ever done with a comic book property. Either it's going to be very good or a catastrophic failure, and there's like no in between.
There is not. You're right.
I don't think this could be an average movie. I don't think you could leave this movie being like, it's okay. You know, I just think you're going to go, oh, that was brilliant, or it was trash. And there's like no room for middle ground.
There's
no
middle ground.
I'm curious.
I'm one of those. I want to wait till I see something.
I agree. Show me something.
Yeah.
But I'm curious.
Chris Berry said,
Oh, wait. Sour grapes available in finer newspapers across this fine country. Almost forgot.
Yep. Chris Berry said, don't believe it's needed, but I would enjoy another installment.
That's a very sober take. We're not used to that on this show.
No, not at all.
Okay.
And then we had, come on, load.
Ooh, yeah. I got it. I'll do this one. I'd love a sequel. Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job pulling emotion out of Joker. Another fair take.
Yes, we're not good at that.
No, we're not. I'm not used to that. It's crazy. Sure. I mean, if you like the movie, if you were into what Joaquin Phoenix did, like it seems like if you want to win an Oscar, play the Joker.
Yeah, that's true too. And then, of course, we also did mention last week that this is going to be a musical, and Harley Quinn. Lady Gaga has been cast as Harley Quinn.
Is she at Harley Quinn officially, or is she just in the movie?
You know what? I don't know. I think they just said she was cast, and everyone
made the assumption that it was Harley Quinn. I'm going to do a quick little Google search. Continue.
To which our good friend Random Randy Savage said, "She's an okay actress. I just honestly think we have to stop going to this well. How many other female characters are in the DC lexicon that we could make a musical about? Where is my Miss Martian musical or Dreamer?"
Can't do Dreamer until you get the whole Legion, but Miss Martian.
True.
I'm not seeing anything that directly says Harley Quinn. I think we're all just kind of filling in the blanks, which would make sense. And by the way, Lady Gaga, I think she is pretty good. She's actually pretty good in the Star is Born remake, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, this is a bold experiment. Could suck.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is too, now that you've said that, does Harley Quinn even make sense without Batman?
Well, yeah, that's what they've been giving us. We haven't gotten Harley Quinn and Batman.
In the sense of Harley Quinn's origin, which of course they'll change for the movie, is she's the doctor at Arkham that treats Joker and falls in love with him.
You know what? That's the movie. It just hit me what they're going to do. They're going to fall in love in Arkham Asylum, and it's going to be in Joker's Psychosis, the musical part. I'm willing to bet that's how they do it.
There you go.
And it's all in his mind, which that sounds like an episode of Batman the Animated Series, more so than a film. But
like in Suicide Squad, when Harley's going down the hall shooting and all that, she sees all the birds and stuff, but like, that's all in her head. So I imagine you could do like so it actually kind of okay. Now I'm not gonna say this, I'm gonna use the term "make sense" in like its loosest way. Like if you could contain that, because again, that's the first Joker movie is such like this grim, like street realism. To follow it up with a musical seems insane, but that could be the point: is that it's dealing with the insane, right?
So I don't know. I'll go on a limb and say it. So I hear they're gonna make Grifter into a movie.
Well, no, this was
transition.
There you go. I'm not used to transitions. This was a question posed to us by one of our listeners. Scribbity Post said, "Just a thought." Scribbity.
I like that. Scribbity.
Just a thought. If they would be able to market it outside of the comic book community, how do you think a Grifter movie would go over? Like,
my initial instinct was to go, who cares about Grifter? But in a world where the Guardians of the Galaxy was a big success, maybe? I mean, he's got kind of a cool look, so I guess you'd have to cast well, here's what's weird, is I think you'd have to cast a star to play him, but then you got to put a mask on him. And like I said, it kind of worked with Deadpool, but I don't know. Like, I haven't read enough of Grifter to say like he's got a big personality or not. So
and would people see him as a Deadpool ripoff?
Maybe, it's possible.
The red and black mask.
Yeah.
Assassin shooting everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Put it this way. If I was in charge of Warner, I thought of something else we can talk about in a minute. Never mind. If I was in charge of Warner, if I was David Zaslav, whatever his name is, I would not say let's greenlight this grifter movie. I would do what he did. So let's make 9 more Batman movies. Those make us money.
Well, grifter is for Image or DC?
Well, he's Wildstorm. He's Jim Lee. That's one of the Wildcats.
Oh, so then that is owned by DC now.
Yeah, because Jim Lee is the last. He's like the last survivor of the Wildstorm, everything in DC Comics, like that whole era of DC. Like Jim Lee's the last man standing. He outlasted everybody over there. Now the sole publisher of DC Comics.
He's a tricky man.
There's a good dude. Someone should write an autobiography, or not some. Someone should write a biography and an autobiography. Jim Lee, or do a documentary or something, because that would be.
Jim Lee would have to write the autobiography.
He would have to, or no, actually, probably not. Jim Lee would have to hire someone to write his autobiography, and 9 times out of 10, you hire a ghostwriter. So, but that would be a good story. I would actually like to hear Jim Lee telling his life story. I think that would be fascinating. More interesting than a grifter movie, quite frankly.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't think Warner Brothers is going to put money into something like that because they don't think they can make money off of anything that isn't Batman, Wonder Woman, or Superman at this point.
And they're making money is very important to them right now.
Yes. The guys from Spread Pigs to Slaughter, they said, thanks for a great interview and the support. We look forward to sharing some exciting updates very soon. So
Bobby and Kurt, those are my guys. I got to do my first solo interview on the show with those guys, and it was fun. It's a wild ass concept for a movie. I hope they can make that the Indiegogo campaign stick. It's a guy who crowdfunds stuff for books. The type of money he needed to crowdfund a movie is horrifying to me. So
oh yeah,
like
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine it either.
I mean, now granted, a lot of money goes to stars with movies.
You got to make the movie. You got to pay for stuff,
Right.
And he brought up a good point in the interview. He's like, you have to ask for so much money to be taken seriously. Like if you crowdfund a movie for $7,000, people are going to be like, it's a movie for $7,000. That's not real. So you have to ask for a big amount. I go $7,000. That's a lot of money. Like, coming from fiction and comics. So
yep.
It's, I'm glad it's not me, man. That's actually one reason I left filmmaking is because you're asking for so much money. And you're kind of like, well, maybe I could pay it back. Like, terrifying to me.
People got to get paid.
People do got to get paid. I'm all for people getting paid. Yeah. Me paying them is where it scares me. So, good luck, guys. Hope you nail the campaign.
We also talked about Jack Shiver, who has been tapped to direct the Thunderbolts for the MCU. We asked our fans what they thought about that. Again, random Randy Savage is chiming in from the Colt 45 podcast. Make sure I say that. I would like this to be Marvel's answer to The Boys. Like Ross creates a new Avengers sponsored by Pepsi and HammerTech, but behind closed doors, they can't help themselves be villains. Save one, the new girl, and it's Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
The lovely Chloe Bennett. It's not a bad idea, but isn't that exactly The Boys?
Yeah, that's exactly The Boys.
So that's why I don't want to see Marvel. Like, it's beneath Marvel to try to do something in the same vein of someone who's trying to parody them,
Plus, I think The Boys is so over the top.
Yeah. With
the violence and the sex and all of that like, if they were to do that, they would just be like, oh, it's a poor version of The Boys.
It's exactly what it would be, a poor man's version of The Boys. And I don't think Disney would want to do that either. I do love the idea of the villains team up. I like, because that's kind of what the Thunderbolts was, right? They presented themselves as heroes, but they were villains. And then there was like a change, like some of them want to be heroes. There's a story there. Warren Ellis's version of the Thunderbolts is basically Marvel's Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Which either one could work. I don't know. That's a tough project to tackle, to be quite frank.
And Taco Shirt Krillin,
what a hell of a name,
said there's some things they could pull off. They have Ghost doing nothing and a few other villains they could explain back somehow. Hard not to make it too Suicide Squadish, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's a bad thing. You just got to find your own take on it. Right?
I feel like because the MCU takes what's the word I'm looking for? Liberties with their own properties, and they don't do things exactly the same as the comics. I kind of feel like we're going to get a mashup of the Dark Avengers and Thunderbolts.
I think, which is pretty much quite frankly, the Dark Avengers was Brian Bendis writing Warren Ellis's Thunderbolts, and he even said that.
Yeah.
Like it's the same lineup basically.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get the U.S. agent, what's his face, the Abomination, just all of those guys, because like they've been setting them up in the movies, and the evil version of Black Widow.
Oh yeah, she's there too. I forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all there. It's not. I mean, Zemo again. Zemo's there.
And Zemo's
the leader of the Thunderbolts, so you need to have Zemo. So yeah, I guess it's all there. It'll work. And what's her name? I forgot. Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's playing Lady Hydra. Like,
yep. Yeah,
it's all
they're
there.
setting it up.
It's all there. It's all there. So yeah. What was the last one?
This is also from Scribbity Post. He said,
Scribbity.
I'm glad you guys touched on Miss Marvel. I liked that they switched it up. The changes in culture is definitely cool, and it may be a kid's show, but I'm kind of digging it. Yeah,
cool.
I definitely agree with that. I guess you haven't watched it at all.
Nope. I just finished Stranger Things, which I can go off. I know you don't watch Stranger Things, but I spent the last 2 episodes came out, and that was 4.5 hours of my life for the last 2 episodes. So my son's like, they should make a Stranger Things movie. I'm like, buddy, they've done nothing but make Stranger Things movies. Like every episode is the length of a movie unto itself.
I heard that especially the last episode was really long.
2.5 hours. But I'll tell you something. It was a fantastic 2.5 hours. Like it doesn't slow down. Like they have so many characters and so many story beats that they actually, to my surprise, do a fantastic job balancing it out.
Okay.
I know you didn't like it, so I'm not going to push you into watching because you do have to watch all 3. Like it culminates, like this last season really culminates and explains, the storyline version of why everything happens the way it does. We finally meet the big bad who's kind of controlling the Upside Down, and its characters die or are maimed. I mean, there's stakes. By the end of the season, you're like, God, there's like too many stakes. It was hard. It was harsh. It was really good, though. That being said, I haven't watched Miss Marvel, but I'm really glad people are liking it.
Oh, there you go.
So I sent you something in the chat.
Before we get to that.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Let's do the commercial.
Let's do our normal. Here's if you liked Social Media Madness and you want to be a part of it, like Scribbity and Random Randy Savage and Taco Shirt Krillin, here's our good friend D Square to tell you more.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of Social Media Madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. The Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for #GWAllStars. You will not be disappointed. Now it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
Thanks for that, Don. And don't forget to check out the Omega Level Nerds podcast, available on YouTube and wherever podcasts are available. And we're going to take our first and only commercial break, and we'll be right back with some news, I think.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, JD. So the CW was purchased by
Nexstar, which sounds like a bad Green Lantern villain.
Is it? I thought Nexstar. That sounds like a mobile network.
It is, according to this release it's a Collider article, which quotes the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal pays to make you read their stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Journalism's got to make money, but I can't use it for the show if we do that. So this Nexstar is a major owner of small broadcast networks. It sounds like they sound like a competitor to Sinclair or something like that. but they have
Yeah.
purchased the majority ownership in the CW. With 25% of the net, they'll own 75% of the network, and they're 12.5% split between Discovery, Warner Discovery, I should say, and Paramount, who I forgot was the other co-owner of the CW. And on top of that, this is what's crazy about this. They took over the network by inheriting the debt, which is in excess of $100 million.
This sounds like some kind of strange hide the money legal move. Corporation
It
thing.
really does. It sounds like a corporate shell game. It sounds like, because when a company says, yeah, we'll take on that debt, and they're like, it's $100 million. Like, it's okay. Like, they're going to write off a gigantic loss this year, because how can you not? It's $100 million. And then I'm sure more, because again, what Zaslav been saying, we need to cut $3 billion from the budget. 100 million is a good chunk of it,
Yeah. I mean,
so my guess is they're going to rebrand CW, and they're going to make it into what they want it to be. And I don't know what that is, but I imagine all the CW shows are probably on their way out.
Well, they're all done.
Are we all done? Is this the last season of all of them? I haven't been keeping up.
I think we're getting the season coming up is going to be it for Flash, and I'm pretty sure everything else
is done.
Everything else was canceled or wrapped up already.
Well, these are all, if we care about Warner Brothers and Warner Discovery and DC Comics, this is what has to happen to move that company forward, right?
Yeah.
Because they're in financial trouble. Like, the pandemic really hurt them. They did not do a very good job. Like, they lost money on a lot of their movies.
They made a lot of mistakes.
Which is why they got rolled into Warner Discovery. Because again, when there's a merger, there's always one person that winds up on top. And the fact that the Discovery people came in and took over tells you who had the stronger relationship in that. So they're cleaning up the Warner mess right now. And I think we had a good decade, right, of the CW doing their thing. So I think rather than warning that, we should take cover and hide from the shells. We should embrace what we had, right? Don't mourn what we lose. Be happy that for a good 6-7 years, you had a network that was basically dedicated to giving you nothing but comic book properties.
Yeah, and I do think, I honestly, because you can look at any of those shows and they all started off with strong ratings and then dropped significantly. And I do think that aided a lot of what we talk about a lot on the show with the superhero fatigue. It was too much. You had Flash, Batgirl or Batwoman, Arrow, I was about to say Suicide Squad, Legends of Tomorrow.
We had Black Lightning, Supergirl, Lois and Clark. What's that what it's called? Clark and Lois.
Yeah,
Bob
I was about to say Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, but
was it Clark and Lois? Lois and Clark. What did they call it in the new Superman show?
I think it was Superman and Lois Lane. I think they didn't call it. Wasn't Clark.
Whatever. I don't remember. I can't remember. Whatever. We all know what I'm talking about. Again, if that's done, that's okay. Warner's going to move all their stuff to HBO Max, and that's where everything should live. Like, I'm trying to find Scooby-Doo stuff for my kid, and it's all over the place on apps. Like, some stuff's on Tubi, some stuff's on here, some stuff's there, some stuff's on Amazon. Like, they need to do what Disney does and just consolidate. Right? This is our stuff. It lives here. Again, that's going to be hard with contracts being what they are, but they need to work toward that.
I think a big part of the problem with like Scooby-Doo, something that's been around that long, I think, is changed ownership a few times.
Hanna-Barbera has been owned by Warner Brothers for like 30 years now.
Okay, but who owned the rights to the stuff? Like
Hanna-Barbera. It's Hanna-Barbera creation.
They always owned all the distribution rights and everything?
And Hanna-Barbera got bought by MGM, which got bought by Turner, which got bought by Warner. I mean, there's a lot, but the chain is there.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't know. Like,
they leased their stuff out for money, same as everybody else. While they were in the earlier days of these streaming platforms, you just license your stuff out to everybody to make more money. Disney did not do that.
Yeah, and I know Disney's not the only game in town, but like they're doing it the best, and it's hard to. I mean, now granted, all these companies don't have the kind of money that Disney has too. But they can still copy them and have the same success on a smaller scale.
They can copy. I think Warner was having success. The problem is they started in such a hole, and the pandemic, because remember, they were trying to entice everyone to come over to HBO Max during the pandemic by essentially shooting their box office in the groin. Like, you couldn't have these big theatrical releases because you're going to put it right on I mean, like, that 4 hour Justice League thing. If 4 hour movie's a hard sell at the theater, but that would have made them more money than what they got on, for your $10 subscription a month,
Oh, I definitely think so.
So again, this is admitted. This is why there's such corporate upheaval right now. Not upheaval, it's actually settled, but this is why they're doing all this and why they cancel the shows, why they're getting rid of the CW. I mean, this is just stuff that's got to happen. It's for their corporate survival.
I mean, it's so funny too, because we've also had this conversation quite a few times about like, and I've listened to other podcasts like, oh, well, they should just do everything streaming, and it's like, but they're not going to make the same money of you watching it at home that they do when you go to the movie theater.
Remember what Disney did, right? Disney was making you pay extra to stream their movies.
Yes.
So like, if you want Soul is the best thing I can think of. You want to watch Soul? Fine, $10 on top of your $10.
Right.
Warner didn't do that.
And they still didn't make anywhere near what they would have made in the theater. That's the other thing. And I think the proof of that is, and everyone who's been like bitching about wanting everything streaming has to look at, now they are majorly pushing people to get back into the theater because they didn't make any money
for 2 years, better part of 2 years, right?
And along those lines, they have officially come out and said, yeah, we're still going to release Flash.
That was the other bit of news I was going to tell you about. They're going to go ahead and release the Flash movie with Crazy Pants.
Yes, but he's not going to be in any future projects.
Right, because they can't, because people they should just cut him out of the movie, and they're like, he's in the whole movie.
Yep.
Like, because then you got to throw away the movie. And again, they are not in a financial position to take an entire movie and junk it. Like, that's losses of hundreds of millions of dollars, and just him being in it's going to hurt the box office, right? Because there's people that won't see it because Ezra Miller's in it, but some people seeing it's better than nobody seeing it.
Yeah, I think people are going to see it. I think
there'll be some. I mean, there'll be more talk than there will be of actual results. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be there'll be a social media campaign of people who boycott the film, which is fine. They have that right. But most people will see it at the theater, but not as many as would have.
I think the marketing is going to focus to
Michael
Keaton, and there's also a rumor Ben Affleck's in it too.
Oh, I'm sure he probably is. They might as well call this Flashpoint. You know what they should call it? Batman : Flashpoint. And don't be surprised if they don't. And have Michael Keaton be the feature, have all the marketing revolve around Batman, because you've got to save this movie. They spent what, $200 million on it?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? You can't throw away $200 million.
And who knows what they're going to spend on marketing? Like,
yeah, probably another $100 million.
Easily, because I think they probably had a marketing campaign set out. Pandemic hit, everything got pushed back, but now they've got to restructure that campaign. That's going to cost money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm sure the advertisers are like, yep, give us more money.
I mean, like the advertisers are doing it too. Like everyone is like, I don't know, they're not penny pinching, but everybody's kind of, grasping for what's quote unquote theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like ain't nobody cutting nobody breaks right now. I mean, it's going to be interesting. They have an uphill battle marketing this movie because we basically already got it with Doctor Strange, right? They're going to have, it's the same movie basically. So they're really going to have to make this, work with an actor that everybody hates.
Yeah.
Good luck.
This is going to fail.
Good luck.
All right. What would you think if I told you it's been 30 years since Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished? Now a new team has been assembled to restart the project in the hopes of understanding the mysteries behind the machine and the man who created it. Everything changes, however, when Ben makes an unauthorized leap into the past, leaving the team behind to solve the mystery of why he did it. At Ben's side throughout his leaps is Addison, Caitlin Bassett, who appears in the form of a hologram only Ben can see and hear. She's a decorated Army veteran who brings level-headed precision to her job. That's the official synopsis of the new Quantum Leap, and September 19th on NBC is when it's going to premiere.
I'm going to watch it because I love Quantum Leap. It's one of my favorite television programs of all time.
It sounds like a total redo of the...
It is. At least they're steering into it. Yeah. Like, again, Scott Bakula is saying he's not involved. I don't believe him because people lie about these things, so they have the moment.
Uh-huh.
He's pulling a Garfield, if you will. The Andrew, not the cat.
I'm about to say... I think you mean a Spider-Man actor, not a cat.
He's not struggling on Mondays.
He's not eating lasagna.
He's not eating lasagna. He's not trying to kill Nermal. He's lying about being in a movie. So, or a TV show in this case. So yeah, man, I'm in. It sounds. I mean, I'm hoping. Addison's a terrible name, by the way. It's an absolutely terrible name, but I'll learn to live with it if the show is good. I hope she's funny because it doesn't sound like she's funny. What made Al work is Al was funny. Al was also a military guy, but he was not straight laced. He was quite cancelable in today's culture. Al would have been canceled, but I hope she's funny. I hope it'll work. What do you think?
Well, I'm definitely going to at least check out the first episode. I'm kind of curious, like, do you set it in the future? Like,
yeah, you have to.
Yeah, but wasn't the first Quantum Leap's future like now?
Well, it's details. You do the comic where you push it back, you push it back, you push it back.
If you remember the one of the catches in the show was you could only leap back
within your timeline.
Within your timeline. Yes. So if he's 30, even if they set it 10 years in the future, he can only go back to 2010.
It's a good point. Unless you said, okay, well, here's what you could do. You could set it today because Quantum Leap, I believe, was set in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So if you play it off like this Quantum Leap was actually happening and we just didn't know it,
true,
right? You could do that and then you'd have some flexibility. So again, if he's 30 now, then as far back as you could go is like 1992, basically, which is when the show goes off the air. So there is a symmetry. And if you could work Sam back in and cross timelines, there has been instances in Quantum Leap where he was able to have someone else's timeline or leap further back. Remember, he goes into the Civil War at one point.
He leaps. Yeah.
And he has Al, like he's an Al at one point. Him and Al switch places. So you go back to World War II, Korea? I forget which, but you go back to
Korea,
like before. Yeah, you go back to before Sam was born, when Al was younger. So there are ways to circumvent it because it's fiction. There's no one way to kill a vampire. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter unless you can justify it with just explain it in context, and you can get away with it. I don't know, man. I hope they release a trailer soon. I hope it's good because I really want to like this.
So here's another question: given the concept of the show of writing things that went wrong, right? Mm-hmm. And even though they took place around, I see that's one of the things that worked, right? Because you had like the civil rights movement. He could go back and experience that. You had the Vietnam War. He could go back and experience the turmoil going on because of that. Like, so now, but yet they kept the stories small and contained, right?
That's the best kind of stories, yeah.
Right, because he can't go back and save JFK.
Well, they did that. They did that on the show. He went back and saved Jackie Kennedy. He literally leaps into a Secret Service agent. And that's the trick, is like he's Oswald. He leaps into Oswald.
That's what.
And then Oswald took over his brain, and he almost did. And then he leapt into a Secret Service agent, and he saves Jackie Kennedy. So everyone went, "Oh, okay, kind of a cop out," but sure, for the show, okay, fine. That being said, that was in the last season of Quantum Leap that wasn't very good. I would have told him not to do that. But you could set stories around 9/11.
Yeah, right? But he can't stop 9/11.
He can't stop it, but you can save people who died in 9/11.
Yeah, true.
You can stop someone from getting on a plane. You could stop someone from going into a building. Like, there's smaller stories, which is what Quantum Leap works best. You can do that. You can do something from the 90s. Like, I'm blanking off the top of my head. Gulf War, right? You can do
the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oklahoma City bombing. That's when you can. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could set stuff. There's been enough tragedy. Housing market collapse of the 2000s. .com bubble burst.
I'm not saying there hasn't been
hanging chads. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
Oh my God, no.
There's a lot.
NBC, do not do an episode. I remember living through that. I do not want to see a show on it.
There's a lot you could do.
Here's the question: does it work now? Because nowadays people want more long form story instead of episodic television.
I agree with you on that. I think there needs to be an overall arc. There needs to be like a show arc. It can't just be.
Do you have things that he changes affects the future, and then he's got to fix that, and you keep doing stuff like that and keep it like Doctor Who screwing stuff up.
When I was like farting around with this idea, my idea was that like a Project Quantum Leap would come back to get Sam Beckett, right? So it'd be like The Fugitive, like he's doing stuff, but at the same time they're after him, right? So they need to do something, not like my idea, but just like something in that regard where you need like an overall, you need to be moving toward something. Because you're right, people get like the idea of episodic and serialized storytelling confused. An episodic show is like what we had with like Smallville, for example. like it's the monster of the week. Buffy, the monster of the week. There's an overarching theme, but everything moves toward this one thing. That's episodic. Serialized is literally one episode follows the next, and every episode, like Stranger Things, for example, that's serialized storytelling. We have way moved more toward the serialized storytelling format. So they're going to need an overall show point. Like Ben is going to have to be doing something. And it sounds like it sounds to me from that synopsis like they are looking for him to find out why he did this. And he probably doesn't even remember why he did it because the quantum leap Swiss
message in brain. Yeah.
So that's going to be it's going to be a little bit like Memento, quite frankly, which sounds cool to me when I say it. Like he's going to figure out why he did this while they're trying to figure out why he did this.
Huh. That's not a bad idea.
It isn't actually. Now that I'm working
and it
out,
could be that he doesn't want to go back because he knows he's got to do something, but he doesn't
know what. So I'm in. I'm game. It's as long as the characters are interesting, I'm in. Like as long as Ben can live up to Sam Beckett, as long as this Addison is as fun as Al, excuse me, I think this show could work.
Yeah. And as long as it's not he's going back to save his mother and then changes everything. No flashpoint.
That would be a flashpoint. And that's not worked out good for anybody, quite frankly.
No, not at all. Oh my goodness.
Bombs bursting in mid-sentence.
Yes, that's
episode title.
Bombs bursting in mid-sentence.
I don't know. Man, I'm the one who lives near Chicago. I don't, but like I'm close enough here.
No, this is the problem with living in the city is that probably about a half hour before we got on here, one neighbor was setting off fireworks, and I'm telling you, that's not one neighbor. Like someone did it and then everybody else, and then the next person goes and does it, because they also don't want to do it when neighbor A is doing it. So neighbor B waits for neighbor A to finish, and then neighbor B starts up, and then someone's going to go across the street to the park and set them off there later. They were going off at midnight. Like, thank God I don't have to get up tomorrow.
And I'm living here in the country, and I'm amazed none of my hillbilly neighbors are trying to blow anything up right now. It's actually very calm and peaceful out here, which is good. I got a puppy, and I'm not sure how he's going to react to fireworks. So if we do decide to go out tomorrow, we're taking him with, because we don't know. We don't know. Some dogs freak out about fireworks. Some don't. Some don't care. You never know until he's only 6 months old, so we won't know until we put him until we put him through it. Sounds cruel, but until he hears it, we won't.
Yeah, my dog, my last dog that I had, it didn't bother him.
Yeah, my last two didn't. But
my dog growing up, she hated fireworks. She hated thunder. Yeah, she would hide under the bed.
Our last dog, Wicket, our my little cockapoo, when he got older, thunder really bothered him. Fireworks never, but thunder for some reason. Maybe it was the way it smelled too, because the smell of a storm. We had to get him a thunder shirt. You ever see those things?
Yes, it's like weighted, right?
Yeah, you wrap it around him, and it's like hugging them constantly, and that would help a little bit. And we gave him some like doggy Prozac basically, and he would calm down, but he would get all kinds of worked up.
Doggy Prozac.
It's a medicine. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but we jokingly called it doggy Prozac.
Oh, did you see Warner Brothers has delayed Dune Part 2?
No. Why?
Sets Monsterverse sequel date, though. I didn't even know they were doing a Monsterverse sequel.
What's Monsterverse? I'm drawing a blank.
Wasn't that? Hold on a second.
I'm looking it up right now on Twitter. Monsterverse?
Yeah.
Oh, the Godzilla. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah. That's fine. Coming out March 15, 2024. Those movies make some money, so I'm okay with it. And there's an audience for it. I'm surprised about Dune, though.
I know. Everyone. I hate that. I hate that they didn't do both of them at the same time.
I was shocked.
Just release them a year apart.
Shocked that they didn't try to. Dune will begin full-on production cast this is 7 hours ago, actually. Dune 2 will begin full-on production with cast on July 21st. So they're going to start shooting at the end of the month.
Okay.
Starts filming on Monday, actually. Monday the 21st, I guess. So, yeah, man. Cool. I mean, that's good. We get to see... Did you like Dune? I forget we talked about it.
It was okay. It was a bit of a slog.
It was a bit sloggy. Like, watching the movie made me not want to read the book, to be honest with you. And I didn't dislike the movie, but I didn't love it either.
And I think... And I remember saying this, like, the scene at night when they were fighting, like, I couldn't tell anything that was going on.
It was dark.
And you said, oh, you feel that they did that on purpose to give you that feeling about
I think
being
it's
in the fight. And
a choice. I don't know if it's a good choice, but it was a choice.
yeah, but I mean, like, you're watching a visual medium, you don't want to.
No argument.
You don't want to be confused on what's going on.
No argument. I think that is a thing we do too much in film.
Yes, and we didn't have Sting in a metal bikini, so I mean,
we had that last time though. So why try to redo what works? You gotta try something different because you're never gonna beat the image of Sting in a bikini. So
never.
No, why even try?
All right. Well, what do you think?
I think we did a good job. I think we know this show works better with 3.
Yeah.
But I think we did a good job. Considering we were throwing a curveball at the last minute. We were prepared for an interview and we didn't get to do it. And then John is hurt. So, I think you and I did a good job. And
the only thing I had said, maybe I'll just do a solo thing complaining about toxic fandom.
We never got to that.
Yeah, just because I keep seeing all these people who just didn't like Obi-Wan, and I'm like, what do you want?
We did that last week, and then I did it with Don too on his show. I'm just kind of over giving these stupid people what do they want? They want to complain. That's what I really believe. I think they want to.
That's all it is, right? Because I think that show gave everyone what every fan has always wanted.
Yeah.
And you see stupid people complaining about, well, he didn't kill Vader and all that. I was like, we couldn't. It's a prequel to we're gonna see him in a movie, but
he didn't kill Vader the last, and he couldn't, right?
Right.
Obi-Wan Kenobi's not a killer. Batman doesn't kill the Joker either, right? Bitch about that all you want. You just want to complain about, and it's a lot of the younger Star Wars fans too.
Yes.
It's a lot of these people, I think guys like us are a little bit battle hardened because we grew up with the original trilogy, and then we were kind of let down a little bit in some way, shape, or form, some more than others, by the sequel trilogy or the prequel trilogy. So we're kind of like, Star Wars could be bad sometimes. That's okay. We still love Star Wars. For the people that grew up with the sequel trilogy, or the prequel trilogy, they think that's good stuff. So they're not let down yet. Now they have to learn to be let down a little bit.
Well, and then the one thing I saw today was Star Wars is too hung up on old characters. And it's like, I get it, right? But they gave us Mandalorian, right? They gave us a new story. And yes, they did then ended up tying in, Luke and everything to it. But I don't know.
People who say that aren't creatives and don't understand what properties are. Star Wars is Luke Skywalker. If you give me something else that's not Luke Skywalker, the Star Wars branding, people are like, this isn't Star Wars, right? This is what we have, and this is what we have in comics all the time, is when we try to do legacy characters, right? You try to, because again, that's the thing, as things get old, people want something new. Then you give them something and they go, well, I don't want this. I want something. I want what I like, but comics people have been through this. So they get it. They cycle, right? You have it's like economics, your boom bust cycles. You break the toys and then you fix the toys, and then everybody's happy when you fix the toys.
Yes. You very rarely get a new character that takes off that people like, like Miss Marvel. In all honesty, I think she is the last new superhero that has a genuine following that people genuinely like. She's a good character.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think they kind of, for years, because I think the character before that in Marvel, you could argue that for is probably Deadpool.
Yeah.
Right. And then before that, it's probably Wolverine. There's not, unless it was created by Stan and Jack or someone Stan and Jack adjacent, it's hard to get acclimated permanently into that universe.
No, you're right.
They want the characters that were created at least by the early 70s. From the midst, other than the X-Men, the all new X-Men, that's really it as far as what is stuck, with the exceptions of okay, Ghost Rider came in. Okay, we like Ghost Rider, but we can't really figure out which version of Ghost Rider we like. We like the property Ghost Rider. But it's true. That's why they flipped Ghost Rider.
Right, and Ghost Rider came out and he was successful for a while, and then
he went away, and then they brought him back and he was successful. Then he went away because he doesn't have the staying power, but the design is really cool. And the same with Deadpool. Deadpool came and people really liked him, but then he kind of went away, and then there was people started living Deadpool again. So that's it. It's been really hard to make these characters stick that aren't Stan and Jack adjacent.
Yeah.
That's because that's what people want. People are like, what are we gonna do? I'm telling you, man, when the Marvel universe is done with this first wave of characters, there's gonna be a lot of people who are done.
Yeah.
who are going to feel like these are my guys. I think we're starting to see a little bit of it, but the train is moving along. But again, when the fan base gets older, this is what happens.
You're right.
Right?
You know?
Like, it's going to be interesting.
It's also why I believe their Thunderbolts is going to be a Dark Avengers with evil analogs of all the characters from the first Avengers. So it's something different, but feels familiar.
I didn't even think of that till you just said it. You're right. That is what it's going to be. So let's hold on. So we'll have Abomination.
Right.
We'll have
That's
Black
Hulk.
Widow. We'll have U.S. Agent. So who else is missing? We need a Hawkeye.
Yeah.
We need a Iron Man.
An Iron Man.
We need a Thor. Is that it? Did I get everybody?
That's it. That's all the Avengers from the first movie.
There's 6 Avengers and 7 Justice Leaguers. So you need those 3 analogs. Like, I don't know what you're going to do for Evil Iron Man. I don't. Like,
unless this is where Randy, where Rhodes comes in and
with War Machine?
War Machine comes in thinking he's on a legitimate government thing.
Maybe.
And realizing that the people he's on the team with are evil.
Because that's the role Hawkeye plays in the original Thunderbolts. So you could do that just with Hawkeye. Although it might make more sense to do it with War Machine, quite frankly, because it's harder to find that Stark analog. I'm not sure who the Thor. I mean, you could do Loki, but I feel like Loki's bigger than this now.
Yeah.
So you could throw some other Asgardian thing. I don't know, Beta Ray Bill. Like, I don't know. There's something they could do. But I didn't think about that with the Thunderbolts until you just said that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then they're gonna slip the Young Avengers in to
that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Either in a Wanda solo thing or they're just gonna go ahead and run with it. And I think we'll start getting more because the groundwork is I was telling my wife about this because she watched Multiverse finally and she really liked it. So I was telling her, like, oh yeah, they're setting up the Young Avengers because she's a civilian. So I was like, she's like, what's the Young Avengers? I said, oh, and I explained it. So we've already got them here. They're already here. You don't even know it. And I explained to her and she was like, oh. So there's a lot of people who are just MCU fans who don't know that they've been like subterfugally introduced to this wave of characters. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The next 5-6 years in the Marvel Universe is fascinating because this is kind of like, can you keep the trains going with B and C listers?
We're gonna find out more soon, though. I'm pretty sure at San Diego they're gonna make announcements about the future. So,
but again, you've also got the Fantastic Four and the X-Men in your back pocket.
Oh yeah.
So you're okay, but the Emperor's clothes, they're looking a little see-through.
Yeah, and this is where I think this is the point where you can try Thunderbolts and Young Avengers and see where it goes.
Well, especially with Disney Plus, because that gives you some flexibility. Like I don't think they have the courage to do a Miss Marvel movie, but the Miss Marvel, Disney Plus series is a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Right? Like the WandaVision as a movie might have been weird, but as a TV series, you kind of think, oh yeah, okay. And you let it play out a little bit and it's all right. Like we let things slip for movies or for TV, that we don't do for movies. Like we let a story play out longer. I watched 9 Stranger Things movies back to back. Like that's madness, but it worked. It was really good. Yeah. So again, our expectations for TV are just different, which is weird to say. You think that the unknown characters would get like the faster, the more compact thing. That's the opposite. They give them these long drawn out.
Exactly. So we know who they are. We're used to them.
Yeah. I tell you, in Stranger Things, they introduced a character in episode 1 of this last season that I hated. I'm like, this guy is so freaking annoying. I hate him. What the hell? Why is he in this show? He's not interesting. They killed him in the last episode and I was in tears. So that's just good writing. But again, they gave me 11 and a half hours with the character, 12 hours, something like that. So like what I didn't like initially, I learned, like, you see through it, you get past it. I come to point out, I think now they introduced everybody so over the top that it allowed you to strip the layers away once you got to like the obviousness of them. And then you got to know them as people, which is a very gutsy way to do it, but it worked out a lot. I really like that show. I could speak about it forever, to be honest with you. I really did.
Maybe one day I'll watch more of it.
I think season 4 might be the second best season. I know you didn't like Stranger Things 1, but I think it might be, just from a pure storytelling perspective, it might be the best season. But if you don't have the weight of the previous 3, I don't think it works. It's like, reading a series,
Yeah.
You pick up book 5, it might be a good story, but you don't have that emotional baggage that you pick up in the previous 4.
It's like watching Endgame without having ever seen another Marvel movie.
And there's people that do that. Can you believe that? They're madmen. Absolute madmen.
All right. Well, did you learn anything this week?
I learned our show is better with 3. We're a better triumvirate. But like I said, I think we did a good job. I learned that I miss John's jokes. I really do. Like I miss John's presence.
Yes, I agree. All right. Any recommendations?
I just finished Shadows of the Empire finally. It took me forever because I've just been so busy with a 6-year-old this summer. So that was really good. My Kickstarter campaign is not live yet, but I'm collecting follows. Follows help the algorithm. It tells Kickstarter's algorithm engines that, hey, people are interested in this thing. So if you can help me out and give it a follow, you don't even have to back the book right now, but I really would like you to. So just before it launches at the end of the month, give it a follow and I would appreciate it greatly.
Yes. And you apparently recommend season 4 of Stranger Things.
I do highly recommend season that too.
Well, I will recommend that you go to superheroespeak.com where you can find the podcast every week. Links to all our social media at the top of the page. Dead links for a free book that will be taken down before this episode comes out. And comic book reviews by our good friend D Square. Recommendations. I'm going to recommend that if you live in the city, do not annoy your neighbors with fireworks.
Fair. Or your especially if they do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know who's podcasting. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even the 4th yet.
No, we're recording on the 3rd. That's nuts.
But I hope that you all have had a healthy and happy 4th, because this will come out after the 4th. And until next time, as always, thanks for listening. Don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.